I'm going to give you a practical example of what to do when you have a compromised sleep. This seems so minimal, but actually I know so many high performing individuals who get bottlenecked by just what their data tells them. If their sleep metrics are poor, they're all falling apart. If their sleep metrics are good, they can send it. Or the opposite, they just don't listen to it whatsoever and their metrics are just pure vanity. This is the difference that makes the difference if you're a high performing individual who's running a business, is that there is going to be a time where you're compromised. My son, for some reason, has decided that what he's going to do is just not sleep, because why would you want to do that? He's growing. In the UK currently it's 33 degrees and he was out all day yesterday and absolutely sent himself into oblivion. Best day, wrestling in the paddling pool, all sorts. But last night he went to bed at 10 p.m. like a grenade, and then what he decided to do is get up at 12 until 1:45 and scream his head off for no reason at all. He had no understanding what he wanted, didn't know what he wanted to ask for, and you can imagine me and mummy both compromised. Now, I woke up this morning where Garmin had said to me, William, you've had 4 hours, 5 minutes of sleep, and that your sleep score is at 40. Now, for someone who measures this data by default, that means I'm totally cooked, compromised. And then on paper, I've got a massive day of business ahead. Calls, discovery calls. I'm also in a position where I'm developing new pieces of the product inside of my company. This is what you do. It's understanding what your physiology needs and not just live on spreadsheets. Reality is, I've got not an option. But on paper, I should be having naps in the day. I should be having my rest, not doing any work, calming down, life shavasana, not happening. Attacking, training, babysitting, and dog walking are all parts of the game. Here's some drivers that I've worked on. First things first, when you have poor quality sleep, cortisol is elevated, i.e. stress physiology. What that means is that everything suddenly becomes point and shoot. I woke up this morning, for some reason, having zero bandwidth. I didn't understand why. And then I realized that actually all it was that I was compromised. So, first things first is understanding what that means. That means that I need to rein it in relation to the operations that aren't serving me. 2, when you go out in an open environment, like I am right now, you can actually reduce cortisol by 30%. So this actually is a massive driver of it, but here's my protocol of what I do. First things first is in the morning, light exposure in the first 30 minutes. I literally walk outside like I was drunk, stood out there and stared at the sun as much as possible, because that is actually how you set yourself up for a good night's sleep later on. 2, you're actually going to have dysregulated carbohydrate metabolism, meaning you're not going to be able to absorb as much carbs because your body is in a stressed state. That doesn't mean no carbohydrate. That means making sure that I'm eliminating processed carbs and I'm still keeping them in, but I'm making sure they're low glycemic, so they've got a slow burn rate. 3, diet prioritization. You may not understand this, but every single thing that you do takes bandwidth. Everything that you do takes cognitive amplitude, and if you haven't got much of it, prioritizing on tasks that matter. For me, this morning was about getting a load of admin done and check-ins that take data points in, because I know full well that later on I've got conversations that they do take gas, but they're nowhere near as testing as data retrieval, for example. Next, what I do is make sure that I move. I think it's easy for you to say, I need a rest, where what you should be doing is pulling down the intensity of your workload physically and mentally. Physically, what I'm doing, obviously going for an hour hike with this weapon and getting him in the reservoir. 2, jiu-jitsu. I was supposed to actually finish my gym session off from yesterday because I couldn't finish it, and I've canned that on purpose, basically to be able to do something that I would say I probably have never decided I wanted to do, which is NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. If you haven't heard about it, Andy Huberman, NSDR is a breathing practice. It's like box breathing. What it does is it down-regulates your nervous system and helps you become more parasympathetic. When you are in fight or flight most of the time, especially if you're an emotional weapon like me, everything becomes a fight or fight. Everything becomes attack everything. And actually, behaviorally, for me, I start to not see the wood from the trees, because what I'm trying to do is clip the ticket and make sure that I'm not compromised. Where the reality is that because I've got dysregulated sleep, of course I'm compromised. So it's acknowledging that. Next, as mentioned, I start the day as I want to finish the day. And what that means is I front load my day, not only with cognitive tasks, but using stimulants too. Other people are going to tell you, oh yeah, stay away from caffeine. You can't. One, I live on caffeine. Two, sleep for me is of paramount importance, and caffeine has an 8-hour half-life. So after 8 hours, you have half of the amount. So if you're having a normal coffee at 180 mg, you've got 90 left in your system. That's why you have a caffeine window at 2, because people say ideologically, you go to bed at 10. Who goes to bed at 10? 9 p.m, bosh, in. Now, what I've done instead, I have front loaded my day with my daily caffeine intake. And yes, I've had a little bit of extra because I'm melted. But instead of stretching it and going, oh, I can go 3, I can go 4, that's guarded because I want to have a more effective night's sleep. Fingers crossed, George plays ball. Now, this is the bit that most people get wrong, is when they're under duress and they haven't slept, they use that as an excuse. Ironically, it's just one day. If I was doing this on a daily basis, this would be a physiological, a metabolic problem that would take way more than a podcast to unpack. But this is a day. Now, what most people do is if they've got a bad score on something, they take it personally and they live off a spreadsheet. Or the opposite, they just don't fucking listen. The name of the game when it comes down to any form of high performance behavior is how you manage it. Self-awareness is your point of entry. Management and pedigree are the key differentiating factors between good to great. And reality is, if you're a parent, you are going to be compromised. So, just my little nudge, whilst I get lost in the woods, and I thought I'd do this on the hoof and show you that this is part of what we do, not only inside Built for Pressure, but for me too, is that if you are compromised with your sleep, and you know full well that you've got important pieces of the puzzle to do, DM me the word sleep on any social media platform, LinkedIn, Instagram, and what I'll do, I'll send you our sleep mastery framework. It's 7 minutes. It will show you the mechanisms of what you need to pull, how to eat, how to operate, and make sure that you can not only keep attacking when you're compromised, but more so actually be able to navigate your performance unscathed without having to compromise elsewhere. So anyway, I digress. Just on the hoof moment of what it's like, a day in the life of a man running a business, having a family, and athletically want to push his limits, and who wants to perform across the board, and how I've dealt with sleep and the lack of it. Anyway, have an awesome week, team. I'll catch you soon.